evening, and I guess we'll get started here. I'd like to welcome everybody here tonight for this referendum information meeting. And I'd like to thank everyone for the prayer and for the food that we received tonight. Very good. Now, as you came in, there's papers at the back there for rules for the meeting, a copy of the BCR for the referendum, a copy of the referendums, the schedules, a copy of the preamble, and I'll be reading tonight from the preamble and the amendments, but before we get started on that, I'd like to do some introductions. Starting with Councillor Malcolm-Dorr.
Good evening, everyone. Nice to see you all tonight. It's pretty cold out there. You know, it's good to take interest in this. And this is something that's very important to our country right now, especially the reserve. I mentioned it at a couple of meetings. As far as I'm concerned, this is a totally illegal referendum. I mentioned before, we're upholding our election act. It's in the courts right now because of one clause that was broken, which is the banned law. And there's all kind of things in the back of that election that we're breaking totally when it comes to amendments to the election act. So with that, I'd like to thank you all for coming out and listening. Thank you.
Councillor Carol O'Malley.
You're out of order. I'm so happy to see everybody here tonight. There's almost 4 times more people here than any other meeting we went to. And by that it shows us that how interested our reserve people are in how the conditions we're going to live in. Our election act is our main document right now, along with our financial act. 2 documents that are laws. So when we change the election act, we have to be very, very careful. We have to comply with human rights. We have to comply with maybe Indian affairs, but I'm not too worried about Indian affairs because we took ourselves out of the Indian Act in 1982. The Indian Act can't tell us what we have to change and how we have to change it. We're out of that. We're out of that. It's up to the people. It's up to the people to make the changes. It's up to the people to suggest the changes to the leadership. I strongly believe in collaboration and inclusion of our members when it comes to making laws. So with that, I'm encouraging everybody on reserve to come and vote tomorrow. But I want you to take into consideration our urban people, our reserve people. There's no discrimination. When we choose to run last election, we choose to run under this bylaw, under this election act. We knew what the rules were, and we paid our money to run under this act. You know, so I don't know why contentious issues. They're not even contentious. They're just it's residency that they want to get rid of that leadership thing. We want to get rid of. It's paying a fee. But you have to remember, our election costs us over $100,000 every time, and we want to get a certain amount for elections. So the cost of running kind of takes away some of the pressure of the band paying. So I know there's always about $30,000 of candidate fees that come into the band. It's always put onto the election costs. You know, that's a good one. The other one about being Yes, we hang around the polling station, but we always hang around outside. We never say, go right into the polling station. We know, we respect that. We know it's not allowed. There's other changes in there that, take a good look at them. The ballot is going to come in a long sheet like that. There's one question on top. Do you want changes to the Election Act? It's yes or no. And then you have to be careful because there's an or. And then there's 9 changes. You do it that line or else the or. You pick and choose what you want. But make sure that you take into consideration the needs of the people, because the Election Act affects the people mostly on the reserve here. We live with it. We're the ones that live with it on the reserve here. So we have to be very conscious of what we're doing. And we have to put that we're the benefit the entire membership. I see no discrimination the way it is right now. Mainly because we had a choice. When we run, we had a choice. We're going to live up to that act. We signed that oath. We obey all rules. We signed that oath. And some of us took that very seriously.
Yes.
Some of us took that very seriously. So really, really think about this act when you're subjecting changes or when you're doing. Really think about everybody. Really think about the reserve people, reserve people, who's going to benefit, how they're going to benefit. We have to learn to obey our rules. It took many years to develop our rules. And we were known in Saskatchewan for good governance. Known on our First Nations, among First Nations, that we had good governance. So I'm asking you on the referendum to take a good look at it, take a good read it properly, and make sure you understand everything. You know, good. Your opinion counts. So good.
Carol, are you staying like on the top? It says, okay, sorry.
So I'm asking in a good way, look at the referendum, make your choices. Good. Your opinion counts. Thank you.
Councilor Charlie Demar.
Good evening, everybody. I've been sick for just about 10 days now. I'm starting to get all over my house and medications and whatever else. It's good to see all the members out here. I thought there'd be a lot more people out here, but there's flu that's going around. Maybe it's keeping my home or whatever else. But I know majority of the people here really didn't have much to say on this election act or any amendments to it. It's sure, yes, it needs to be changed, but I like to have the whole community involved. Not only just a certain few, maybe or anything like that. But I think that there's a lot of smart people from Cowessess, and I'm sure that they have a lot more input. They don't have that input on there also. But in my mind, I think this whole election act, this whole thing going on, I think it's all it shouldn't be on the road. But with the voting, at least for getting the members involved, their opinion counts. If they want to change it, if not, they'll vote.
Councilor Walter Pelcher.
To me, I agree with this amendment because I believe all Cowessess band members are equal and we should all have an equal chance to run in the government. So, to me, I agree with what this referendum. But I do believe that all of us governments are equal. There shouldn't be no top reserve, on reserve stuff. It should be all just understanding.
Councilor William Tanner.
Hours, all that hours. I go too, I agree with amending this election act to a referendum, vote salary, everybody an opportunity to vote. We're amending the consensus issue that our election act, every election, that was how the deal with our constituents. So by we amend them and we're giving everybody their input and their say. And all they have to do is vote yes or no. It's up to the entire members of a certain group. So I encourage you to come out and vote if you don't like the changes or whatever, then vote no. Something you like some of the changes, vote first. It's good opportunity to vote.
Councillor Edward Sagan.
Good evening, council members, elders, seniors, youth. Stand here humbly in front of you as one of your leaders. I sure learned a lot in this time. It's been a hard road. I sure miss those union days when someone told me what to do and I just did it. I've done the best to speak from my heart and not my mind. I'm thinking of our children and our children's children, not necessarily about us today. Yes, I'm here for us today, but we need to work together to build a nation for our people. We need to learn to work together to share jobs, food, land. All these are very issues that affect all of us. I believe that we have a choice between so many families out here, and I've seen that certain other people, brothers, sisters, switch off from election to election, like tag team wrestling. But yet, the people with the education, the people that are out there in the urban centers, have degrees, and it opens up our pool. We have a lot of potash, we have a lot of different minerals that we can be developing to work together. Yes, maybe we didn't involve everybody, but time was short, okay?
Give them 1 minute.
So, we're not stuck. We have a choice. We're able to make revisions in the future. Nothing's set in stone, but what I like the most is we just put 7 of the things, or the suggestions. We're not putting anything down your throat. You can vote yes, you can vote no. But the most important thing is finally our urban members are going to want to vote. They're going to start coming to those polls. Why? Because this is the first time they get a choice. They get a say. They get to have 4 members on, 4 members off. Whoever we want to decide to make it. But it's going to be fair for everybody. There's no more hard anarchy. We're all together, in a circle. No one's behind you, no one's above you, but beside you. Because we are a nation. And once we learn to share, once we learn to work together, our children will be laughing in the streets, playing in the streets, like it was when I was a little boy. But I wasn't raised out here. I was in foster homes. I fought every day of my life to be a part of you guys. And I am a proud Cowessess member, and I thank you for your support. And I've not done everything right, but I never had a game plan, right? I'm just going from my heart. But thank you for listening to me.
Councillor Valtan.
We're here tonight to look at this election act referendum, and as many of you know, every election we've had this process where we've looked at the election act, we've come together, we've discussed it as a community, and to date we don't have any changes. So that's why I agree with the referendum, to give people an opportunity to vote. Every single band member that's engaged can vote on the amendments. If you agree with the changes, as been said, then vote yes. If you disagree, vote no. And the timing, as for the President's Election Act, that act is still in court and will continue to be the act in court, regardless of what happens with this vote. That act will be in court, and that's the act that will be held up or whatever decision is made. So with that, and the changes will affect the next election. They won't affect anything right now. That's my understanding of it. And we've had, as far as whether it's illegal or not, we've had lawyers look at it. And they're lawyers that have been working with Native people for years and years. The other thing is Loretta Peach is the electoral officer. She's also a lawyer now, and she wouldn't incriminate herself in any way by carrying out an illegal referendum. She has experience doing referendums, and I know the big thing is, okay, it's always been 7 positions for unreserved members only. And I've talked in other centers about the changes to the Indian Act, the election portion of that, is lining up with the Charter of Rights and Freedoms so that no one is discriminated against. And that's what the new Election Act is. Under the Indian Act, all you have to be is a band member to run for chief and council. And we're not under the Indian Act. We know that. We haven't been for many years. But it's also lining up with the federal system. That's one of them, that any member can run no matter where you're from. The other one is that it'll be a 4-year term. And there's other things in there that we can look at as a community down the road, and we can adopt it into our own election act. And, you know, as far as having discussions, we've had a lot of discussions on the election act in all the years, over and over, and nothing's happened. This way, there's an opportunity for everybody to vote. Like everybody said, come out and vote, express your democratic right to vote. Thank you.
Chief Gary Lavelle.
Ladies and gentlemen, members, first of all, I want to thank you for every evening. And I'll thank you, Coach, for the mighty fine meal we had. I think we've been blessed with, among our membership, we have some beautiful folks, some dual traditional knowledge, including up there. And I guess getting back to the task at hand, what I'd like to see and what I wanted to see was to give all the band members an option. In everything, there's always an option. You know, one of the things that lies on reserve that we're plagued with is welfare. Just what 90% of our membership is between welfare and actually having good jobs. So in doing this, this gives us the opportunity to develop our own constitution. Because this in itself is one of the acts that really makes up a constitution. You have to have a clear vision of where your leadership is coming from, what it's going to do, and how it can actually control your leadership. You know, so that you have options in order to do these things. And in order to develop our constitution, which is going to, the next order of the day that's going to probably come next, is that we have to go about doing the same process again so that everybody realizes what a constitution does. And how it's very meaningful, not only now, but to our unborn and to our children, because there's a few things we have to remember in developing the criteria that goes into these acts that we're doing. We are a big band. We're over 4,000 members, and one of the most important issues we have to look at is that 65% of our membership is under 25. Like, that's a big number. In 10 years, in the next decade, our number is probably going to double. We'll be 8,000, 9,000. And then we have to set the stage so that everybody can be part of the whole administrative structure of our band. It's always bothered me to say, to have to deal with people from my office or from wherever. I'm talking to people, oh, you're off reserve. You're on reserve. This is a very discriminatory phrase that has been brought along with the band right from, I don't know how long it's been around, but A lot of people have always said, if you're living off the reserve and you come and try and get a house, well, go back off. You're not from the reserve. You're not on reserve. And it's really sad when you're talking to people from outside, when you're talking to city people that have never lived on reserve, and sometimes somebody asks them, where are you from? They won't say Cowessess. Because from Cowessess, you're off reserve. You know, and so that's some of the things you have to look at. How do we make everybody proud to be from the reserve here? I know in the past year, we've had some, just lately we've had one funeral here that was really, really sad. When Elizabeth felt she passed on. You know what? One of her goals in life, one of her, I guess you can say, bucket list was that she wanted to come home. And everything worked out so that she eventually got home. But it was a sad ending when she got home finally and everything was in order and she passed on. You know, that was really a sad day to me because I know her for a long time. I've known her from the days when I used to live along the lake over there as a young person. So these things are really touching. And I guess that's all in the process of giving the people a real option that they have to vote on. It's not stuffing anything down anybody's throat. You have the option as an individual band member to vote no or to vote yes. I appreciate anybody that wants to stop and listen and talk to them. I've been listening to Malcolm and some of the other people talking about, they have some really good points, but we have to move on. What we're trying to do is we're trying to modernize our act so that it fits today, tomorrow, and in the future. Because hopefully we have followed all the rules and regulations in order to be able to amend it. There's 2 points you got to remember. If you're doing an amendment, it's very specific. If you're doing just that one phrase of residency, you've got to deal with residency straightforward. You can't deal with anything else. But in a referendum, you can deal with various issues within the act. You know, that's what we decided to do. There was 7 contentious issues. There's 9 points on the ballot that people are asked to vote on. And so with that, I just want to say that I hope everybody votes and vote by your conscience. You know, like go ahead and vote and talk about it. This is what we have to do. We've got to get our people talking about these things. You know, this is a good example this evening. We have a pretty fair membership here, and the weather is not the best to be traveling around in, but I'm glad that you've all made it this evening, and I thank you all for coming. And the day is done, and we have our council sit down, and we'll have another meeting at that time, and we'll talk about, well, here's our new election act and how it's going to impact and what it's going to do. Sure, we're in court right now, but our election act is not in court. It's just that one phrase that's in court, that one phrase on residency. You know, that's one thing we have to realize. The court can rule against that residency clause, and what happens then? What happens in the rest of the election act? It's stuck there. We're still going to have it. It's still going to be there. You know, but the time has come now that we have to modernize it in order that we can adjust when the time comes. You know, so that's one of the things, because it's not going to be immediate law. It's going to be immediate law. It's going to guarantee our next election is going to be running the outcome of how it comes. So that's going to be how it pertains. With that, I want to thank you for listening. And that whole phrase that you're actually having some respect for people because everybody's been able to talk without too much interruption. With that, I want to thank you for coming. Thank you.
Okay, we're going to proceed now with reading of the preamble.
Wait, can we ask, when is the question? There's no one.
Questions will come after I'm done reading. The Cowessess First Nation, number 73, Custom Election Act is an act of the Cowessess First Nation. The Cowessess First Nation is entitled to develop its Custom Election Act in accordance with the customs and traditions. One of the most fundamental principles in the heart of good governance consistent with the Cowessess First Nation laws since time immemorial is the membership to choose the process by which the leadership is declared and to confirm the governing principles of the leadership. The Cowessess First Nation recognizes that these customs and traditions are continually evolving in response to the demands of a progressive and dynamic nation. We intend to bring our Custom Election Act up to date to be aligned with the human rights defined in the Canadian Charter of Rights and Freedoms and the decisions of the Supreme Court of Canada. Over the last 30 years, there have been many appeals and results of the customs elections of the Cowessess First Nation. The contentious issues that have come to light over the years include residency, candidate fees, election appeal tribunal membership, tabulation votes, terms of office, polling stations, candidate forms, nominators criteria, and the Indian registry. In light of this, the Council has decided to hold a referendum on the contentious issues related to the Cowessess First Nation No. 73 Custom Act. The Cowessess First Nation Council agreed by developing and approving terms of reference to facilitate a referendum that is necessary to modify and update the Cowessess First Nation No. 73 Custom Election Act. The purpose of the referendum are to create an accountable, transparent system through which the officials are accountable to the membership on all matters of the Cowessess First Nation, to establish standards of good governance based on identified needs and aspirations, and to confirm the rights of the citizens in all matters described in the Cowessess First Nation No. 73 Custom Election Act. The Act, once amended by the referendum, shall govern all Cowessess First Nation No. 73 custom elections. It shall not, however, override the other laws, bylaws, and acts ratified by the Cowessess First Nation membership. Now, what I'm going to do, I'll proceed and read the amendments from 1 through 9, and questions will follow after this. Amendment 1. All references to the resident and non-resident councillor shall be replaced with the reference of councillor, and all references to residency of the councillor and chief shall be removed. All amendments to the Cowessess First Nation No. 73 Custom Election Act in this respect are contained in Schedule A. Amendment 2. A person running for office for chief or councillor shall not be required to pay any fee to do so. All amendments to the Cowessess First Nation No. 73 Custom Election Act in this respect are contained in Schedule B. Amendment 3. In order to be eligible to be appointed to the Election Appeal Tribunal, a person must be an independent and a lawyer of good standing in the Law Society of Saskatchewan. There shall be an Election Appeal Tribunal chair appointed by Band Council, which the chair shall determine whether an appeal should proceed to a hearing. If an appeal is to proceed to a hearing, 2 additional Election Appeal Tribunal members are appointed by the chair for a total of 3 members. All amendments to the Cowessess First Nation No. 73 Custom Election Act in this respect are contained in Schedule C. Amendment 4. Election and by-elections shall be conducted by paper ballots to be counted by non-electronic means. All amendments to the Cowessess First Nation No. 73 Custom Election Act in this respect are contained at Schedule D. Amendment 5. The term of the office of chief and councillor shall be 4 years rather than 3 years, and all amendments to the Cowessess First Nation No. 73 Custom Election Act in this respect is contained in Schedule E. Amendment 6. The Cowessess First Nation No. 73 Election Act shall be clarified to permit campaigning activities outside the room in which the voting is occurring, but shall be prohibited such activities inside the room in which the voting is occurring. All amendments to the Cowessess First Nation No. 73 Custom Election Act in this respect are contained in Schedule F. Amendment 7. Article 7.13 of the Cowessess First Nation No. 73 Custom Election Act shall be clarified so that the candidate's attendance and the nominator's attendance at any candidate's forum is not mandatory. And all amendments to the Cowessess First Nation No. 73 Custom Election Act in this respect are contained in Schedule G. Amendment 8. A person may nominate only 1 person for chief, 1 person for councillor, and may only second the nomination of 1 person for chief and 1 person for councillor. All amendments to the Cowessess First Nation number 73 Custom Election Act in this respect are contained in Schedule H. Amendment 9. The Indian Registry Administrator shall be ineligible to be an electoral officer or deputy electoral officer. All amendments to the Cowessess First Nation number 73 Custom Election Act in this respect are contained in Schedule I. Thank you. Questions from the floor come forward and please state your name.
Denise Calce, Cowessess band member, very proud Cowessess band member. First of all, I want to start out with a prayer that's been getting me through the last few months. I'd like to ask the Creator to grant us the serenity to accept the things we cannot change, the courage to change the things that we can, the wisdom to know the difference, and the strength to carry on, and the love of my community to see us through. So I just needed to do that because that's been getting me through. So in regards to the amendments, a question on the amendments and the procedures. It says, I've been hearing about mail-in votes and people mailing in votes and everything. When it comes to the amendments, it doesn't say anything about mail-in votes. So the question I have is, which process are you using when it comes to taking out the amendments? Because I'm hearing different opinions, I guess, from different people on what this is. You're trying to amend this, but what process are you using? Because you're apparently not using the process that's in there. And more specifically to Article 1601D, the proposed amendment shall be voted upon by the band members at a band membership meeting set out in the notice described in Section 1601C above. The voting at the meeting shall be by secret ballot by band members personally present thereat. Members shall be entitled to vote at any one of the meetings, and record shall be kept of all band members in attendance and votings at the said meeting. The count of the ballots will take place at the reserve poll. The proposed amendment shall be considered to be enacted by the band members if approved by a majority of those band members who cast a vote on the proposed amendments. In the case of the vote, the proposed amendment shall be, in the case of a tie, it shall be lost. So nothing about mail-in votes. We shouldn't even be counting the mail-in ballots because it says at a meeting present thereat. Thank you.
No answer.
Our questions are more.
William Tanner.
Where's the electoral officer?
Is that guy walking out? No? Who is the electoral officer?
Electoral officer is following the guidelines. The order set it up to follow the guidelines. Not following the amendments to the Election Act, they're following the referendum guidelines that are placed here. And the lawyer bill, the electoral officer sent tags out to all the members that live off the reserve, the ones on the reserve, can come and vote. It's not possible to mail them.
So you're treating it like a referendum and not an amendment? Well, then you're using entirely the wrong process. But you're using the entirely wrong process then if that's the case. First of all, let me finish. William, let me finish. Gerald, let me finish.
No.
William?
No, William has the floor. Just wait.
Let him talk.
Those are the referendum guidelines that are set out, that we're following, that our lawyers rules to follow, and we sign the band council resolution, and we follow the referendum guidelines, and the band council resolution is up front there. If you want to look at everybody, sign it, follow the referendum guidelines, not the amendment meeting.
So which referendum guidelines are you following?
Referendum.
Which one?
Just that, you're at a peak more.
The Indian Act referendum? And don't it, William?
Ask for why.
Okay, the only reason that I asked is because we went through a referendum twice in the last 3 years. We went through a designation referendum and we went through a floodplain referendum. Did we follow the same processes? No. That's all I wanted to point out. Thank you. Thank you.
Didn't feel like a referendum, that.
Pardon?
Didn't feel like a referendum. You couldn't vote yes or no. With those ones.
I'm not speaking on a council right now, I'm speaking as a concerned band member. I'm a little concerned about the integrity of the who went out. They're voting the other cities in Alberta, that way, in a taped up box. That's not a way to run a secret ballot referendum when ballots can be looked at. I'm a little concerned about the box number in town, box 699. The integrity is a state event. Being a counselor, I phoned the post office today, and I asked who had access to that mailbox. He told me there were 2 keys. And I asked each person who would give me that information under Privacy Act. But I know one of them has to be the electoral officer. So I want to know where the other key is.
She has both of them.
Does she have both of them now?
I saw it.
Okay,
Multiple.
I was worried about that because it had been empty. One time I went to the box. Didn't tell me who. Didn't tell me how many ballots. He just said it had been empty. I was a little bit worried about the keys. I was worried about the access to the secret ballot out there that was in that cardboard box. I'm worried about the legality of the referendum. Because according to the electoral officer, she's only in charge of running the election, the voting process. She's only in charge of that. She has no direction, no VCRs, legal VCRs. I mean, in affairs. She has copies of VCRs that only have 4 council signature on it. And that's not a legal VCR. So I'm kind of worried and leery about what legal action we might be putting ourselves into by doing this referendum. Who might challenge it? Who may challenge it? And who? Yeah, who's got money? I don't know. So I'm worried about the whole integrity of this referendum. I'm worried about the secret ballots. Who had access to them? I'm worried about how they're going to count them. Where they're going to count them. When they're going to count them. We don't even know that yet. So Loretta Peake has stated a couple times to different people that she was only in charge of the election part of it, the voting part of it. She has nothing to do with how it is brought about, what the process is. She was only hired to do that portion. So to me, I'm kind of leery. If things don't go properly here, what's going to happen? What are our members going to do? And then, we had no discussion yet about what's going to happen after the votes are counted. If it fails, what's going to happen? If it passes, what discussions are going to happen amongst the people on how we're going to put the provisions and the clauses into our act? We have to have people with really a lot of legal knowledge, a lot of legal, experience in doing these acts. So that is a bad member I'm concerned about. I wouldn't even go into the problems I have as council. Thank you for listening.
Anunnaki Ashkate. And you guys are all like people, right? So what I want to say is that I'm concerned as well as Carol about the dignity and the lack of respect and about our children and the future. I voted no in the designation agreement. I voted no in the floodplain. I didn't receive the $500. I didn't sign away my rights to the water and to the land. I read the documents. I didn't listen to what the leadership said. I voted with what I understood that I read. And that is all that I see that this leadership is doing. They're not telling you either way to vote yes or no. They are stating the facts, and that is all. It is our choice how we react to those facts. They have provided the documentation. They are telling you to review it and make your decision, yes or no. And you will still be a band member, and you will still belong to Cowessess either way. When I voted no, I wasn't shy about it. And look how me and my family were treated. And I could get into detail if we want to, but I don't. I would rather forget all that and move to a brighter future and consider our children and our land and our water and make it clean again and love each other again. Is that so wrong? No, it's not. So why don't we be kind to each other and make our own decisions instead of trying to coerce other people to make your decision? And that's all I want to say.
This has been the most honest thing that we've ever done. The full council was there when we had other family groups involved. Now what I'd like to say is on Friday, the way I see it, we're going to bring all the ballots in, the red is going to come in here, and they're going to count them in front of everybody. We're all welcome. We're all in.
Why not Thursday night?
Do it tomorrow.
Do it tomorrow night. After it's done.
All I'm saying is, tomorrow, we skip the vote, and Loretta, because voting ends at 8, she, I believe, wanted to vote on Friday.
28th is not in the BCR.
I'm just simply stating.
28th is not in that BCR. The 28th is not in the BCR.
Order.
The 28th is not in the BCR.
Well, then let's stay tomorrow.
Yeah. And there you go. Yep.
Okay, I have no reason to lie either.
That's 27.
I believe stay together and work together for the people. Nobody was excluded. They all signed that. I'd like to mention that over 200 on-reserve people, I went around, got a petition, I see a lot of signatures here, that said that we needed change. I went and sent that to the Minister of Indian Affairs. And a lot of people that signed that are the ones that took us, our government, to court over residency. One little loophole.
Yep.
One little loophole is keeping us on off separated. We are a nation where we learn to work together for our children. Like, quit being selfish. We all deserve a job. We all deserve to be a part of it. You know, that's what we're saying. These are just the cornerstones we got right now. We're going to build on it in the future for all of us. We're all equal and we all deserve to be respected and loved. Let's put all the contentious issues aside and let's work together. That's what this is. Everybody has a choice. Everybody has an opinion now. Nothing's going to be rammed down anybody's throats from now on. If we have more smarter people off the reserve, more educated people, it just gives the people more people to vote for, because why? We deserve the best. I might not be the best, or far from it, but I'll tell you, I'll give my heart for causes. I'll give my life for causes. And I promise you that.
Did you want to speak? Yeah.
I was just wondering myself about a few of the things. I didn't bring down my notes that I was reading. As I was reading, some of the changes I do believe are kind of ridiculous and not feasible. You want to talk about giving the people the opportunity to vote. Well, we should have been given the opportunity to help make those changes if we needed. Another thing is you got to realize our election that every time it went to court on account of Harry, it stood up. It stood up in court. Why do we want to change? That residency, that Corbet decision you guys are wanting to try and push in our face, it was just gave you the opportunity to vote. That was it, nothing else. That's what we came for, you know. We're here to come and speak up, I guess. Because we're not given that chance. We weren't given that chance. The lawyer, I talked to that, to Loretta Keith myself. She doesn't even know, you guys probably just, she doesn't know any of all the legalities in that. Because you were just paid to do this. You want me to read what she wrote when I asked her the questions?
Yeah, read it.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm going to read it, what she wrote.
You have glasses?
Okay, you want to know the legalities of the referendum? I do not know the answer to that. Why continue the referendum if you don't know? I'm hired to execute the voting process. I'm not aware of any injunction or other mechanism preventing the current process. The lawyers for the chief and counsel will answer that. And she was going to bring that forth, but nothing was brought back to the people. INAC doesn't recognize them, or his leadership right now, and it's currently in the court. She said, I'm responsible for executing the referendum and not the politics and legalities. So the politics she doesn't know about, how they're going about this process, and it's not even properly done. In there, you want the lawyers to have money set aside so they can seek legal counsel. Well, for fuck's sakes, with all those lawyers independent and with them 10 years, back up. It's going to cost very little. That money won't even go nowhere. It's not feasible. What do you guys think? And it's only your thinking that's leading you guys, misleading us.
Brady.
Sorry, I'm not very comfortable standing in front of everybody when I talk, so. First of all, thank you, Sadie, for the prayer. Everybody that's here. You know, I think there's going to be a lot of confusion after the vote. There's going to be a tally at the end of the day. Thinking like, who's this served?
listening to William explain why we're, not following the process in the Election Act that's actually law right now in Cowessess. This is law, our law. Why would you want to go and transfer over to INAC and say, INAC, tell us how to run our lives here? That's number one thing. The process in the amendments of the Election Act that everybody was voted on, that's supposed to be legal right now. This is the rule of law tells us. This other process through referendum, that's an INAC legislation that allows Indians to do whatever they want to do. So I guess the question, Mr. Chair, and it was brought up earlier, which processes are you using? And what is the validity behind that process? There should be not just this VCR here. Obviously, whoever drafted the VCR really should have maybe made 4 or 5 VCRs of this, because when you do a VCR, it's got to be specific to certain things for INAC. And I'm pretty sure that's one of the reasons why INAC is not accepting the referendum under Indian regulation. So, again, when it comes back to it, we're going to go through all this process, and at the end of the day, it's just going to throw everything up in the air, because there is going to be an election, regardless if it's going to be in 2 months or 6 months, but there's going to be one coming down the way here a bit. And if we vote on it and say it just happens, it does go yes. So which act are we going to use? This is the act that was started in 1980 under Henry. And it's the law. This other process that you want to try and enact is just the government of Canada saying, here, we'll get Indians. So where's the process here? Which is the one that you're using? And which one is valid? I guess we're up with that, because at the end of the day, you're just confusing more people. Instead of actually helping people, clarify that. I know that the lawyer that you have working for you right now, give him another $1,000, he'll tell you another story. That's to get someone that's capable.
William?
Yeah, just to try to answer some of your questions, just to answer your first of all, the ballot box, I guess. Maybe a cardboard box, but you can't really carry a metal box around a chest.
Too heavy? Man.
At the end of the poll of that day, like on every round of days where they opened that box, they take all the ballots out and put them all in an envelope and seal it, and they put tape across it, and the electoral office signs it, probably the deputy, and not open that until it's here. And the U.S. Food and all of that, you see that the ballots were not open or looked at. That's how that would be done. And you talk about counting of the ballots. Well, in the referendum guidelines were following and said that the ballots would be counted thereafter. It doesn't say it right. Not right after the poll, it says thereafter. Would actually be the next day. Okay? And we talked about our lawyer, about the VCR, he's the one who drafted up the VCR, he's the people-based lawyer. So I don't see any problem with drafting up that VCR. You better do it in Mr. Gray area. You know what I'm talking about? Gray man, your lawyer. That's why there's not a big problem with the Gray election act, because he's the one who brought this election act in. Back in 1996 when Terry Welch was the chief, I was against it then. And you were there too, Carol as a counselor, you were there too, Terry as a counselor. And nobody come here and developed this act as a membership. The lawyer who got election act.
We're asking what process you're following. We're not asking about a history lesson here. I don't want to hear your stories. What are you following?
Order, please.
I'm telling you this. That's why we decided to have a referendum and get all membership, but we're not just 17 people that voted here.
At least it's down in my mask again. Yeah, ask him again now.
Maybe just a moment. Eddie was first.
Didn't even answer the question.
Yeah, I see you.
Didn't even answer the question.
1996, part of that. A few of us here, very hall. A lot of us here agree. But instead of banging tables and talking over one another, we decided to walk out and show our protest that way. I admit now that was wrong, because the vote carried on with 25 people that stayed. 18 in favor, 7 opposed. So carried. So then the protest started to make those amendments. Now I'm not saying, what I'm saying is now we all get it. Everybody gets a say. I mean, honestly, think about your children. Let's not be selfish. Okay, we have a lot of minerals out there that a lot of people want to do business with us. We're going to have to grow. The minister himself sent Grady a letter. Or was it,
Eddie wasn't even around.
Sent Morgan, I believe, the letter first stating, you know what, Cowessess? Your election act is out of order. It doesn't follow the Charter of Rights of Canada. And then Grady also was issued that same letter. And what did they do? They sent it to Alberta, where it's been sitting in his office for 7 years. That's what's costing us all this money.
False
The
history
vision between our people. You think this is helping our kids? You think this is helping our people fighting one another? Dating our brothers, dating our cousins, dating our uncles, dating our sisters? No. The government itself said we're out of order. We need to think of our children and build it up.
Thought that was Carol who was out of order.
In this day and age, we all have to learn together and we all should be equal. Why? Because that's what family is. And if you really look at it, we're all family here.
Thanks, Gerald. A couple things, I guess, that really bothers me, I guess, when a lot of people move home from the small side. I lived off reserve. I grew up here all my life. I moved to Regina, I went to Calgary, went to Edmonton, moved to back, and I lived in Regina, owned a home. I did sell it before I moved back home because my mom passed away. And even back then, you know, I just want to take it down a little road here, and I'm sorry, but one way I can explain it is this. When I came to residential school here, up to grade 3, I wasn't really accepted by some of the boys I was with. And I had to fight my way through that. Went to a white school, it was a little too brown there, so I had to fight my way through there. You know? So, I know what it is to be not loved or feel like you're not loved. I know, and I appreciate very much that everybody feels that way. But, you know, when you start learning the processes of governance, and how things work and how they're supposed to work. You know, and I think we need to start doing more, I guess, workshops on that in our community because, again, I agree 100% with what you said. You know, why can't I be involved in officer? Well, you do have that opportunity to be involved in officer. I don't think Cowessess ever once denied anyone off reserve anything, except, and this is a big except, I want a house and I want to move home. Well, at $250,000 a home, how many houses do you think Cowessess can actually build? You know? Every year. You know, it's like winning the lottery. If you get a house on reserve, it's a $4 million touch for the band. So, like, other than that, you know, I think the band has always been open to all of our membership, no matter where you are.
They have no place for us to live.
But that's just it. No, the people that are living here right now don't have a place to live. But that's what I mean. At the end of the day, when you're looking at the way this amended, again, going back to what William's saying, I want to get everybody involved and everybody have, well, that's great. But let's do the amendment legally with our own law first. And then if you want to open it up, open the door and have whatever, horses and carriages or whatever you want to put in there afterwards, that's fine. But right now, what this is doing is it's opening the door
for court action. Someone doesn't like the way the election ended up, well, I'm going to court. But this is the law right now. This is the law. That VCR that put together, that's not a law. This is the law. This election act is the law. But that's what I'm saying. Well, why try to amend it in a process that's not covered?
Exactly.
If this is the law, why use the VCR to say that you can change it?
It's covered for you.
No, it's not covered. It's not covered.
He wouldn't be chief, right? He wouldn't be your chief. He would have moved into a house.
Mr. Chair?
There was somebody in that house.
Arthur, please.
Let Grady talk.
Grady has the floor.
Your story.
You're out of order.
I think the big thing that we're doing here is we're just opening a can of worms here. That people that don't like the way the election went, they say,
I'm not talking to you, I'm talking to her. She wants to look at
Arthur, please. Arthur.
it's opening doors for someone that doesn't like the election, when we have the election. Someone doesn't like what happens, it's going to open the door. All you're doing is creating more opportunity for people that don't like the way things turn out to bring more action. Like I said, there's an amended policy, whether if you like it or not. You know, and I'm speaking directly to the council right now. Whether if you like it or not, that's the law.
That's the law.
Not the VCR, that's not the law.
Harold, then Eddie.
Now I'm going to speak to you as a counselor. I'm going to tell you about the VCR. VCR that's at the back door. Yes, we had a council meeting. Yes, we all agreed there was a change needed. We agreed to that. We signed the VCR, and the change in the Election Act. After that, we kind of got shut out. After that, the council meeting didn't involve Charlie, me, Malcolm, and Kevin. So we don't know what really went on for the process after that. And then we got called to another council meeting to sign VCR. Okay? We didn't agree with the process. Number one, we couldn't agree because there was 4-4 VCR, 4 against the VCR. The tie was broken by Terry Valley. That's not a legal VCR, that's a dead issue. The tie like that, it's a dead issue. Okay? When we signed it, when we went in for another meeting, a VCR was brought to our attention. The contractor, the electoral officer, we contracted and agreed. No, I'm sorry, we didn't agree. We tied on that one too. The tie was broken again by Terry Valley. But it wasn't Loretta Peak that we were discussing at that time. It was Oliver Cameron. That's the electoral officer we were supposed to have. And we didn't agree on that. So we voted, it was a tie again. Terry Valley broke the tie again. Not, it was a dead issue. Should have been a dead issue right there. Legal sponsor. Yeah. So when we go up the VCRs, I was sitting there. I was sitting there with these guys and Phyllis. They were drawing up a VCR. In that VCR, they had 3 different actions. And I told them at the table, that's not how you do a VCR. For one action, there's one VCR. For trying to bring out a referendum, that's one. Hire a contract electoral officer, that's another VCR. We should have 3 VCRs to direct us or to direct Indian.